my name is Katie and I'm the driver for the session and I'm here with me.
Hi, my name is Nico and I will be the navigator for this session.
Okay, so today in class we did lesson 8 and just give me a second. Sorry, as I was saying, today we did lesson 8 and 9. So lesson 8 was about starting an app with Express.js. So basically in this lesson, we learn how to initialize an Express.js project and started a simple application that said hello in our web browser. We also learn about Express.js as a web framework and saw how you'll benefit from its methods moving forward. In lesson 9, you apply some Express.js methods in building a routing system. So we ever try this challenge. So change the get method in your index.js file to post, restart the application, and see how your application behaves differently when you try to access the home page at the localhost 3000. And you should see a default error message with Express telling telling you that there's no get route for the home page. And the reason is that you change the request method you're listening for. If you make a curl post request to the home page, you'll see the original response content. So I'm going to explain the code. I've already made the edit, so I'm just going to explain the code. So over here we have our main JS. Let me just make sure I'm in the right one. So over here, we have the port for 3000, so that is just the number where the server will be listening for incoming request. And then we've got the express that is important, which provides a framework for building the web servers. And then we've got the app. So the app is an express application instance and it's used to define routes and configure middleware. And then we've got defining the get route. So when we look at the code over here, over there, basically, so the route path. So over here, this is the route path. This defines the root route, which is the home page for the local host, and then we've got our method type like the app.get. So this listens specifically for the get request. So these are made when someone visits the URL in the browser. And then we've got the request object by REQ. Um, over here that captures the path of the URL and the request body contains the request body content. It's useful for the post input but undefined here because the body passing isn't enabled. Um and then we've got the URL over here that shows the URL path for the request. And then we've got the request query over there. So that captures the query parameters in the URL. So for example, name equals to John would be an would be a result. And then obviously we've got our respond.send hello universe that sends the string back to the browser as a response for the request. So when you visit the home page, Express logs the parent's body URL and query in the terminal, and then it returns hello world in the browser. So what will happen when we access the server? So we'll visit localhost 3000 and then the server detects a get request. Inside the route handler, it logs the request for details in the terminal and then it sends a response hello universe to the browser and the browser will display hello universe. And then in the browser, when we visit the localhost 3000, we'll see an error message that says something like cannot get and then the slash. So this happens because the browser sends a get request by default, but the route now only handles the post request. So in the terminal, when we use the call method, um, you will see the values logged from the post request. So the request parameters, empty object, since there's no dynamic parameters. Let me just show you so long over here. And then the request body will remain undefined unless the model will set up to pass request bodies over here. And then the request URL displays a slash is the URL. And the request query is an empty object unless the query parameters are included, for example, the name equal to John. So the call or the postman response will display the original message of the hello world over here. As we can see, it is over here. So I'm going to access the web page and I'm going to show you the error that we are supposed to get. Over here, as you can see, cannot get. And that is it for lesson 8. So now we will be moving on to lesson 9. So over here we've got lesson 9. So here it is about routing in Express.js. I'm gonna go over the code over here. So we've got our const port 3000, const express, and the const app. That over there. So the port number will be where the server is listening for the request, and then the express is just the Express.js framework, which simplifies the web application and the APIs, and then the app that is an object to the main instance of the Express application, and it is used to define routes, middleware, and the server related configurations. And then we've got our app.use, the code over here. So basically, over there, the purpose is the middleware logs every incoming request and URL in the console. For example, if you visit the item carrots, it will log. I will show that later. And the request made to item carrots, um, that how it works is the request URL contains the path of the request, and the next ensures that the request proceeds next middleware routes handler after logging the URL. So now I'm going to explain the middleware. So over here in the code that I've just highlighted, the URL middleware. So it passes the data sent through forms using the application. Under code in we have the extended fault limits the pass data to simple key value pairs. For example, if a form sends name equal to John and age is 25, you can exit with the request body. And then we've got the pass, and then passes JSON data sent in the body of the post or the put request. And for instance, if a client sends information about like name and age, it will be available as a request body in the route handler. So these two middleware ensures that the server can handle different forms of incoming data, like the forms in JSON, and it makes it flexible for client interactions. And now I'm going to explain the get URL parameters. So So over there, it defines a get route for parts like item or carrots and potatoes. So the vegetable is a parameter which means it can be replaced with any value. So how it works is the request parameter vegetable captures the value of the vegetable and part of the URL. So for item carrots, request parents vegetable will be carrot and the response will be in the browser, like this page is for carrot. And then we've got the another URL over here, the app.post. And that handles the post request for the root URL and it logs the request body data sent in the request body and then the request query. This queries the parameter in the URLs, like for example, home name equal to John, and the results will be name John. And obviously, this is just for starting the server. So I'm going to start the server and show you. As you can see, this page is for kids. And that is it for lesson 9. Thank you for watching.